You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Loman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Loman.
Hey everybody, welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. Doug and I have 15 minutes because we just spent an hour and a half recording a podcast that we didn't actually record. So now we're going to go super fast and we're going to go through all of the points, and this is going to be the shortest podcast in House of Sunny history because that's all the time that we have left. Okay, go. Right. We're talking about the shooting, horrible thing. I think everybody knows what happened. I'm not going to go through that again. But here's what happened before the shooting. Jane Fonda, let's see, I got to share my screen. This is the part that takes time.
Many incitements to violence. Jane Fonda calling for murder on national television.
So this was like a few weeks ago. I think a lot of people saw this, but here she is. The purple bitch, purple witch.
While you're queuing that up.
We have experienced many decades now.
She's talking about abortion. Let's skip forward. I don't care what we're not going back. And a reminder that she's the one who was on a tank in North Vietnam supporting the enemy when troops were on the ground getting killed. She was voluntarily a part of their propaganda against the United States.
Literally a traitor.
I think the women will rise up.
That's the activist.
That's Jane
speaking,
yeah.
and she probably will get a Nobel Prize.
But it's true.
It's very
true. It is true.
Besides marching and protesting, what else do you suggest?
Well, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a miraculous. What did you say?
Murder.
She's kidding. Wait a second. She's just.
Don't say that. That's
you don't know. They'll pick up on that and just run with it.
That's the worst.
She's just kidding.
Well, let me talk to you about.
She's not kidding.
Let's move on and talk about.
Look at that face.
So then you likened her to the purple witch of East Germany? That
reminded me. So yeah, there was the wife of the head of East Germany was this woman, Margot.
East German, remember during the East German communism.
East German communism, and she was known as the Purple Witch because her hair was purple.
And she ran a child prison as the wife of the dictator.
Let's find her purple hair picture. Yeah, they called her the witch because she was in charge of the kids.
There she is.
She ran
the purple witch.
Yeah. Cute. So something about purple hair. All right. Next, we were going to show before that, a few days before the shooting, Kelly Jane, look at you guys are seeing all my bookmarks here. It's cute. Kelly J. Keane, who is Posey Parker, was doing a Let Women Speak rally in New Zealand. She was doing a tour. She'd just done Australia. And the basic gist is she gets up, she makes a few remarks, and then she opens the mic for women to speak about their stories of victimization, actual victimization of trans men or men in their daughter's locker room or like something, or just speaking out about their trauma and having now be in a health club locker room, seeing dick, like being naked or, like, oh my God, are we really here?
Actual like acts of oppression against women.
Yes. And Kelly J. Keane is like a former leftist, not leftist, but, kind of like maybe moderate feminist who then was like, what is going on here? Why are men being allowed in women's spaces? This is going backwards. This is not safe. She has children. She's just been a really big fighter for defining, like keeping the word woman as just for women and not for trans women. And that has gotten her into a huge amount of trouble in the UK, and she's called a Nazi, of course, and everything. Anyway, here she is. This rally had to be shut down in New Zealand because they were mobbed by 200 trans activists.
This is the Karen Loving mob. This is the diversity and inclusion mob, right?
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at her face in here too, she said afterwards, she's like, I really thought that I could die. so scary. Anyway, it goes on from there. So this was all in the lead up, and now we're seeing things like Antifa's Day of Vengeance, Trans Vengeance with guns on it. Like all these posters are coming up, and we're seeing, oh my God, there's like this whole movement for trans people to become violent. And James Lindsay has called this reverse drag Floyd. He has warned us that they're trying to incite a trans Floyd incident so that they can use that to clamp down on us. So they used Floyd to get CRT and diverse DEI into every corporation and every school, and everywhere you are now has this BLM diversity and inclusion CRT thing going on, all because of Floyd. What the hell was his first name again? George Floyd's murder. Well, not murder, his killing, which obviously he died of fentanyl anyway. So like it's bullshit, but they used that incident to launch this massive clampdown on or spreading of their very divisive communist ideology. So here we are, he's saying, don't give them trans Floyd. Don't allow their provocation to create violence against them. And now he's calling this reverse trans Floyd, where they are pushing trans people to snap and to go after regular folk who will then react, and then there will be a clampdown to keep everybody safe. So this is all like part of the playbook of communists or totalitarians to take more and more and more control, and we have to be careful not to give it to them. He has a great post here that's come out since the shooting to say, be very careful. Do not go after them. Do not let them divide us in this country. It's a small number of people. We have to keep our heads about us. And of course, all of the Democrats are calling for gun control in response to what has happened. Here is Randy Weingartner, the head of the teachers union, calling for a gun grab as took place in Scotland, New Zealand, and Australia. For democracy's sake, Doug, right?
Our sacred democracy. That's right.
Our great nation must solve. And how many lives will be shattered before we have the courage to do what Scotland did, what Australia did?
She does not care about shattered lives. She's the one who locked kids in their homes, like didn't let them go to school for 2 years, made sure everybody was masked, was vaccination of children that when they didn't need it and it was risky. This woman doesn't care about shattered lives.
Well, what about the shattered lives of the people that would be victims of violence without being able to defend themselves with a firearm?
That's right.
Or what about the people whose lives would be shattered by a tyrannical government that could enslave its citizens if we couldn't fight back?
Like no one ever killed anyone with a knife or a car, right? It's always guns. They know what they're doing. This is how this is not only, it's like the same reason they take over healthcare. They take over a monopoly on protection as well. If you need the cops and you need the state to protect you, you're definitely more under their thumb. If you can be an individual and protect your own house against criminals and your own property, then you don't need them as much. And also, they can't then come after you. You can protect yourself against them. So it's two things, I think. They're destroying the sense of our own self-responsibility. And this is something I've noticed with all government. You put something like the FDA in place, which just started in the 70s. I mean, you think that this thing's been around forever. It's a relatively new organization. We didn't used to have it. I think that's right. Maybe it was before, it's like 1970 or something. And we get used to it. And then we think, oh, how would we ever take medicine without the FDA? We can't remember a time when the government didn't do that for us. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they have eroded, they've given themselves credibility. Like they give themselves usefulness. Oh, what would we do without the government? We have to have the government. No, you don't need the government to make a decision about a drug. You don't.
Yeah, it's like if the government produced shoes, we'd be saying, how would poor people get shoes?
How will I get shoes?
How will I get shoes if not for the government?
That's exactly right. So every time they take control of something, they take away your self-responsibility. It's the same with guns.
And this is the MO of communists. They want to educate your children. You're not responsible for your kids.
Right.
You are not responsible for your own self-defense. They want to control the currency, so you can't trade or use your own currency. You have to use the government currency. You're always a prisoner to the state. That's what
they got their shooting. They got their trans shooting, and now they're calling for a gun grab. Joe Biden, though, isn't calling for a gun grab.
My name is Joe Biden.
He went down to Nashville 6-7 hours after the shooting, and here's how he started his speech.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Joe Biden's husband.
Yeah, the people laughing make me kind
and
of
I
sick.
ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream.
Oh, you did? Not because some kids were shot?
By the way, I have a whole refrigerator full upstairs.
And by the way, the irony here is like they didn't get their George Floyd. Like the trans person is the one who was killing the Christians, yet they're turning this into a victim, that they're the victims. And you've seen them coming out saying this person was misgendered, that was the real crime, or that now they fear the backlash against the trans community or whatever, as if they're acting out in violence, or someone acting out in violence in this way is somehow cause for us to feel even more empathy for these people and what's going on, and the sort of psychosis that's being induced and validated by this progressivism in the schools. And so it's interesting. Are they saying now to take guns away from trans people? I mean, is that the argument they're making? Because they want to take guns away.
Yeah, from everybody. I don't think they care, obviously. They don't really care about trans people. Just like they don't really care about Black people. Defund police. Well, who's going to suffer from that the most? People in poor neighborhoods, predominantly Black people. People where the crime is highest, predominantly Black neighborhoods.
Yeah, where people can't hire their own professional security.
Right, they can't afford their own security, and now they don't have police, and so let's take their guns too. So this guy, I swear, this has been going viral. This guy, Brian Garvey, wrote this post basically calling for going door to door to seize guns of everyone, even if you have to shoot them. And like literally, he says,
we have to kill them all. I have to kill half the country.
We have to kill them all, and maybe we have to kill half the country. But oh well, we're fighting a war. What difference does it make how we get rid of them? We're fighting a war against guns by using guns to murder half the country. Like, think about how twisted you would have to be mentally to come up with that. Like, a few people get shot, therefore let's shoot 100 million people in order to stop a few people from being shot. It's so transparently evil. It's all about control. It's not about actual killings that matters to this guy. But I swear this thing is so
he
evil.
wants to kill half the country. To stop what? To stop, there are X thousand murders a year. He wants to murder like 150 million people.
Yeah.
So this guy cares about murder?
No, he doesn't care about murder. He cares about control. I don't think you should
have people being murdered.
I don't think you should have a gun, and therefore I'm going to shoot you. Because you're not complying with what I know is the best way to run a society. Like, it's so Nazi. It's so communist. And this is the psychology of the totalitarian. But I was reading this earlier, and it's almost so bad that I'm like, is this a Fed? Because it's like, NRA types aren't going to give up their guns no matter what laws we pass. These lunatics are not going to comply with gun laws. And they aren't going to leave the country. They think it's their country. That means if we want to save America, we're going to have to kill them all. Like, that's almost so ridiculous. This has to be incitement. Like, he's trying to rile us up or something, is what I think.
Well, he loves people so much, and he believes in inclusion and diversity and rainbows so much that he wants to kill 150 million people.
Yeah, and that is just where the
all out of
obviousness
love.
of it's not really about that comes out. And I feel like we're getting better at, or they're getting so much worse, or I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely, I don't see the left as compassionate or like they don't care. I think that's the right response to them is you don't really care about the kids. You don't really care about murder. You don't really care about crime. You don't really care about that poor, I don't want to have sympathy for her, that girl who's confused about her gender, who's so mentally ill and evil. You don't really care about her either, or anyone like her who doesn't actually pull the trigger.
Right. I think they're seeing these people now, they're seeing their enemies as avatars for evil that are just like video game zombies to be killed and wiped out. I mean, this is the predicate for like the Chinese Cultural Revolution, where tens of millions of people were murdered by the state. I mean, these are the predicates for all the genocides in history, are when this type of mentality is out there that's willing to wholesale slaughter like half the country, literally willing to slaughter half the country. Like, I'm not in agreement with the left or most Democrats. Is there any part of my soul that really wants to like see like bodies stacked up? I mean, this is like such a level of psychopathy and madness that we just haven't seen it in our lifetime. Like you haven't seen it really since the Holocaust and since the Cultural Revolution in the 60s in China.
Yeah.
And the killing fields of the Khmer Rouge and
I
this
feel
kind of
like
stuff. It's crazy.
it is super important that we all get educated. And I'm reading White Pill by Michael Malice, which is basically the story of Russian communism from start to finish. And he gets a lot into the horrible, like the things that they just did to support the state and how evil and wicked they were and how bad it can get. And I think it's really important that we connect with that because it is hard to believe. It's hard to believe that would happen here in America where people are free and are supposedly respect individualism and freedom. But we are living now with people who are of the ilk that would hurt us like this. And James Lindsay, though, is very careful to say, like, we cannot respond like an us and them. We have to stay calm and use the law and use the process and suppress these people.
Right. And we can do it through the courts and through legislators and local action and local political action.
They have made huge inroads because we haven't been involved. It's just uncomfortable to be involved, and they've made huge inroads, and it's going to take time and effort to get rid of them. But that's better than a bloody civil war if we can avoid it.
So this guy, Scott Pressler, speaking of local conservative action, this guy's a one-man army conservative activist. He shows you how to get involved, and he's a crusader for local activism in conservative circles. He has a website called earlyvoteaction.com, and you can do stuff from your phone. You can make calls.
He gives you a script, right?
Gives you a script.
And his big thing is we all need to vote early because this is how we get our votes counted. Unlike what happened in Arizona. And the smart focus is on ballots, not votes per se, because the get out the vote in Arizona, we saw what happened there. They totally screwed Republicans over by making the machines not work in their districts on the day of voting, and all the early voting just swept these corrupt people in.
Yeah, and then if you vote early too, there's less money that needs to be spent by the good guys to get your vote. Like if we can get we have this principle, we only vote on voting day. We got to stop doing that. We got to do what they do.
Yeah, until it's changed or whatever. It is what it is. I mean, we can definitely work on changing the law back to same day voting and ID and all that stuff. That's great. We definitely need election reform. But in the meantime, this is what the reality is.
Yeah.
So I think we have to do both.
And if you want to get involved in stuff, like there are people in your community that you can leverage that have already probably done a lot of great stuff that you can work with, either through straight party politics or other conservative groups that probably have a voice in school boards, local city councils, town councils, state government assemblies, whatever. And find those people and get involved with them and just help them in any way you can, whether it's giving them a few bucks or actually getting on the ground and doing stuff or whatever you can do. This is how we're going to do it. This is the only way to do it.
Yeah, this is how we do it. And good people can win. Look up, Matt Taibbi had a great piece this week. Good guys can win, or what was it?
Yeah.
Wish I could remember the name of it.
We can win, or something like that.
We can win. Yeah, look that up.
About the industrial censorship complex.
Yeah, and how we have had wins against them. Okay, and now for comic relief. Let's see, where's this? Where did somehow I lost my Kamala Harris story.
Oh God.
Where did it go? Kamala Harris went to Africa, y'all, and she cried.
Ghana. The half-white Indian woman. Yeah, there it is, right there. Towards slave castle. The castle built by Black people to enslave other Black people in Ghana.
Kamala Harris holds back tears during visit to African slave port, where Black people sold Black people. They're not mentioning that part. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna...
For 1,000 years, by the way.
I'm gonna cry here. Yeah, for 1,000 years. But slavery is just in America and just new.
Yeah, this is a new phenomenon.
Americans did that. And I just want to mention...
Look at her putting that on him.
That's Kamala's husband.
That's great.
We'll wear the costume. Oh, there she is. She's touching the wall.
Touching the wall,
she's touching the wall, contact. And she's just flowers, and she's taking a moment to reflect on how
she choked back tears.
People sold Black people in slavery. It was really awful. And by the way, she's not Black. I just want to point out that she's white and Indian. She's Kamala, not Keisha, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's here feeling the tears of someone else's ancestors. I don't know whose, but not hers. So, in fact, I would like to know about her white line. Maybe they were slaveholders. Anyway, that's it for our show. That's an hour and a half in 15 minutes. This one was recorded. Shortest House of Sunny episode ever. You got anything to say?
No. Good job. Maybe we'll adopt this format in the future.
Yeah, right. Why be an hour and a half when you can do it in 15 minutes? Of course, it took an hour and a half to organize our thoughts.
Exactly. We just now I know what I wanted to say.
Presented in 15 minutes. So you're welcome, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
There is a house called the House of Sunny. It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now, and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right, and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?